Yo, welcome to the Monix Project. I'm your host, Monix. Before we get into today's episode, I have a very important question for all you listeners out there. Are you looking to buy, rent, maybe even sell your home or property in the Las Vegas area? Well, look no further because today we have our very first sponsor of the Monix Project, my very good friend, Kylie Elu. Not only is he a badass on the mats, but he's the realtor you need. Working with Berkshire Hathaway, he can help you find exactly what you're looking for in today's market. For any questions or inquiries, you can find him on Instagram and Facebook at Realtor Kylie Elu. Again, that's Realtor Kylie Elu. Hit him up and he'll get you right with any of your realtor needs. One more time, you can find him on Facebook and Instagram at Realtor Kylie Elu. That's spelled Kileyyellul. Again, Kileyyellul. Thank you so much for supporting the Monix Project. Now, I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Monix Project. I'm your host, Monix. Today, we got a very special episode. Returning guest, Dominick Williams. So you want to say what's up?
What's going on? What's going on?
And we got two very special guests. My brothers here, James Nival. How you doing, bro?
All right. How's it going to all the listeners?
And Mitch Bowles. How you doing, bro?
I'm hanging in there, fam. Doing good.
Yes, sir. So if you want to give out your handles real quick before we start this off.
I don't have a handle, but yeah. So if you know me, you know me. If you don't, then that's too bad. So, yeah.
You can find me on Instagram, JVNIVALBJJ. That's it.
You can find me on Instagram, DGLILNIGAS, DG Little Ninjas. That'll do it.
For sure. So before we get started in the show, I wanted to get your backgrounds a little bit and let the listeners get to know you a little bit before we get into a lot of questions my man Dominick came up with here. All right. So where were you born, James? We'll start with you.
I was born in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay. And when did you move from Brooklyn?
Well, I moved from Brooklyn, I think about 4 years old. We moved to Atlantic City, New Jersey. So that's where I was raised, in Atlantic City, in New Jersey, until about 1991. Then I came to Las Vegas.
Okay.
And then, traveled back after Vegas, 94, 95. Went back to the East Coast. Was living in the Bronx for a little while. Moved back to Jersey. Was in Virginia at the same time during college. And then back and forth between college. Until I left college and then went back up north, back to New Jersey. And pretty much I stayed till I came back to Vegas in 2006.
Nice. Okay. And you've been here since?
Well, I've been on and off here, moving different places. I moved around a lot, going different places, just, trying to find where I was going to be, where I was going to lay my roots at. I spent a lot of time in different places. So spent some time in Baltimore, spent some time in Brazil, spent some time, Vegas, Jersey, New York, VA. I've been around.
Damn. Different area codes.
Yeah.
Homie said VA. It's Virginia.
What about you, Mitch? Where you coming from?
I hail from Long Beach, LBC. So I was born out there, 77, and then I moved to Vegas around 82. So I was about 5 years old. So I spent the majority of my time growing up here. And then once I graduated from high school, I got to live in the Midwest for a little while. Got a football scholarship to play for the Kansas University. So I was there from 95 to 2000 and came back home and been here doing this ever since.
That's what's up. So what made you guys get into the art?
Jiu Jitsu for me, I got when I moved back in 2006. I had a family friend relative that took me to a Jiu Jitsu studio to just try a class out. I had some more street fight experiences in my life, so I guess the art of learning how to defend in the street fight was something that drew me, but more of my love for martial arts since a kid. I grew up in an era where martial arts was really big. Started in the 70s and early 80s. It was a part of the culture, especially for where I come from. It was a part of the culture. We were kids running around with Bruce Lee slippers and kung fu clothes and ninja stars and things like that. That was a big part of our culture. Kung fu and all of the things that come with it. That's why you can see, my generation is the Wu-Tang generation of the first part of Wu-Tang generation. So what grew in that was also what grew in me as well. I did participate in martial arts as a kid. So, I had the experiences that a lot of times they talk about in jiu-jitsu classes or, arenas where they have conversation about jiu-jitsu. I did the martial art, didn't apply really well in the street fight. I did other forms of fighting, boxing, wrestling. Just, again, still not what I liked for the aspect of fighting because it's not well-rounded. You know when somebody, like they say, somebody has good hands and is a good fighter, or the person that usually grabs and throws you to the ground to try to hit you. So there's different situations which were more prevalent for me because I probably seen a lot more street fights than the average kid sees today. So that's one of the things that drew me. So definitely was more the love for the martial arts, though. I love just that whole aspect, the culture of martial arts.
What about you, Mitch?
Very similar to James, right? So Bruce Lee, fell in love with that guy early on. I started at 8 years old doing Taekwondo, so I had that discipline and I had that structure, that mental toughness that comes from that. Because growing up, for me, I was always a little guy, and so I was always had that complex where you got to be tough. And so anybody would say anything weird to me, I would hit them or go off at the mouth. And so it got to be a point where I almost got in trouble in grade school to where they were like going to send me to Opportunity Village or whatnot. So my dad was like, let me figure out something for this kid. And then once I got involved with martial arts, I was able to kind of channel that energy. And then once I did that, everything for me changed. I started doing really good in school. Like, my focus was good. So everything really benefited. And then as I got to playing football around 12 years old or so, I never left martial arts, but I dabbled into the football, and it got me an education. And so I was able to take that with me. And even was funny now because I would go to college, and Jet Li was out then, right? And so he was like the new coming to Bruce Lee. And so I would have all of his videos. I walked around with a suitcase, and I had every fight or every movie that he played in, right? And it was all on VHS. So we would watch those, and then they would always make fun of me, calling me the Kung Fu guy in college. And so there was a couple of guys from from Korea that were doing Taekwondo. And so I kind of like teamed up with them in the after hours and doing the same thing, fighting with them and doing stuff. Came back home and started working with AT&T, and that's where I met James. And then me and him had a kind of like, we was vibing on that martial arts tip. And so we kind of like started comparing a little bit, right? So in 2009, we over here talking about XYZ, and so we squared off at work when the doors was closed, right?
In the job?
In the job. We squared up, what I'm saying? And so I was like, all right, let me see what you got. And I'm thinking I'm tough, I'm coming with it. And all of a sudden, I don't know what he did or how he did it, but I was in an arm bar in like 2 seconds. And I was like, yo, son, what is this? He's like, yo, this is jiu-jitsu. He was like, I'm about to go to class right now. You want to come? I was like, hell yeah. And sure enough, November 2009, I jumped into this journey with this cat. He had already had a couple years on me. And so he guided me through it, and he's been guiding me through it ever since. So, much love for him, and I appreciate the guidance that I get from him. And all the butt whoopings, they soak in and they make you learn. So, yeah, that's how I got started and where I am today.
Were you a blue belt at that time?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
I have
okay.
been in for 2 years already.
Mm-hmm.
And what made you specifically start jiu-jitsu?
Somebody took me there.
Somebody took you there?
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like
shit.
I think that's everybody in jiu-jitsu. You get taken there.
Yeah.
You either get taken there by a friend or you get taken there by a situation. Either you're searching for that situation if you was bullied, you're looking for some confidence, you might need to lose some weight. I needed all of that.
Mhm.
So I needed to
Wow,
drop
you-
some pounds, get some more confidence, get discipline. Definitely was mostly about discipline. But I didn't get into it for that. I just was getting into it just to fight.
Even weight loss, huh?
Weight loss, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What were you like? What was your top weight? Like, how much were you weighing?
200.
Wow. And just through jiu-jitsu and
Yeah, I lost like 20 pounds in the first month.
Damn.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, I went from 200 to 185. And then 185, I got down, and then in a year, 2 years to 175. And that's where I walked around for a long time.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then jiu-jitsu taught me about diet and starting to take care of I think jiu-jitsu whips you into shape.
Mhm.
That's the literally terms. Like, whips you into shape. And if you're just not one to quit easy, then it will whip you in the shape.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So now, like, with you guys' journey this far, how does it feel now being business owners of a jiu-jitsu gym, like running it?
I think, again, when I got into jiu-jitsu, the first thing that flashed through my mind, first came in my mind, was my childhood. So that was the first thing. So childhood came up, and then childhood experiences, and looking for the right tool that can help you end some of those experiences that you kind of experience in life, and you don't have an outlet to deal with them. So it was like, that hit me the first day, like, because I saw kids in there and the kids were whipping my butt. So I was like, wow, so how is it that the kids are beating all these grown men? So imagine if you was a kid and you was whipping on grown men and you're not using any punches. So like, if I'm on top of you and I can hold you and you can't get me off when I don't punch you, can you imagine when I'm punching you?
Right.
And so that's what came to my mind. Like, I can't get this guy off of me or this kid off of me, and we're not even punching. So what if I was to hit him from the bottom? Like, that wouldn't be a smart idea. Like, this is not a good situation. So it was like they had a lot of control. And I think those situations came into play. The fact that the kids were very mature and disciplined, that came into play. You know, I did start working with kids too. So that had a lot to do with me wanting to get involved really fast, is because I seen like a tool that was just better than attribute sports. You know, because sports are attributes. And unfortunately, everybody is not attributed in life with born talent to be fast or to be strong or to jump high. You know, some things, because if you have those attributes and they just kind of like naturally to you, someone can teach you something, you can use that to your benefit. But I can't teach you that attribute. You know, I can't make you be 6'6" and dunk a basketball. Like, I can't. You know, if you're just not born that way, you're just not. So you're just, you know, and to be honest, that's the average person. Average, above average is 6, 7, 8, you know, type of individuals. They're above average people, and this is why they're chosen for the sports. Just like gladiators. You know, gladiators are chosen for a sport because based on the things like that. But this gladiator sport, we don't choose any of those things. We are using the martial arts sense, you know, balance, counterattacking, you know, the things you may learn in karate, but it doesn't involve striking, so you can play different areas. So all that was like first day, it just came to me like that. Again, I studied the martial arts as a kid, like just watching it. Bruce Lee was always influencing, and everybody knows Bruce Lee's style was like a mixture of styles. He didn't adapt to one style. That's what his art was made from. So it was like all of that came in the first week. I'm like, you know, oh, I'm living a kung fu flick in here. It's different than like going to the other martial arts schools where you're hitting objects. You're not hitting actual individuals or hitting you back. Mm-hmm. Boxing is punching only. So, you know, and you have to train as much in boxing like someone trains in other sports. So again, you can't just walk into a boxing gym and pick it up. It's going to take time, and that time is a lot of time taking punches to the head. So what if you're not that guy? You don't want to take punches to the head. So then what? So where do you go? Where you go learn how to defend yourself? Where you go learn how to fight? So again, all of that was coming into play for my first week. So I think that's what drew me in, and then that's what kind of also put me on that path to doing it as a career. Was I saw that it was a tool to help lives, because that's what everybody was saying in the gym too, or what they say when you go to a gym, or again in all those arenas where people are talking about what you can do in the martial art of jiu-jitsu, other podcasts, so on and so forth. It's that kind of, you know, spoken language that this is a life changer. It saves lives, changes lives, help people do better in their lives. So yeah, all that kind of just, you know, was like something that drew to me, and I drew to it. And yeah, the affinity, the love for it came later. And then the profession aspect was like, yeah, you can do this for a profession. It's not like, you know, the typical martial art gym that you consider, because, you know, people kind of think martial arts schools are just, you know, it's a part-time gig.
Mm-hmm. You want to add anything onto that, Mitch?
Basically what he said is very key and hits home, right, to a lot of people. And the one thing that me and him had discussed when we were still kind of like working together doing a job type of a deal is possibly opening up a school, you know what I mean? So it was something that was on the horizon, and it just happened to present itself a lot sooner than we probably thought it was, and we kind of took it and ran with it, and just trying to build a culture where people can feel included, where they can feel comfortable. And like he said, the one thing that I really like about it is you come in here, like he said, without certain attributes, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But the attributes that the children bring in here or the adults bring in here, those are the attributes that we fine tune and we make it yours. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, you may not be able to dunk a basketball, but when you come in here, you're going to learn how to utilize your body as a weapon, right? And so
What
first
you
we
got.
you use what you got. And first we got to get your mind right? You got to have that mental aspect and that discipline. And then from there we can kind of like help you, guide you along the way, and just hopefully make you a better version of yourself. Because that's the only thing you're trying to do is be better than yourself, right? Don't compare yourself to anybody except for yourself yesterday. Beat them yesterday, you know? So that's kind of one of my mottos.
I like that. And Dom, if you can start this one off for me. All three of you teach. What made you jump into teaching?
You know, the thing with teaching, I've been doing this for a long time at this point, and this is kind of all I know in a sense. I mean, I've been doing this since I was 16, and this is kind of what like stopped me from being in trouble as a kid. And so me going to the highest level academy and training with those guys for so long and coming back here and having knowledge to share, I just want to I want to spread that, you know. When I was living here in Vegas and I was training under, certain academies, there was a certain type of style that I wanted to explore that I didn't know how to kind of tap into. And, you know, what I was searching for wasn't at home and it wasn't anywhere near home. And now that I actually have that style that I was searching for so long, I want to bring that here for those who can't go out and seek it themselves. And teaching something that like I feel like it comes kind of natural to me. Of course, you've got to get used to it, and there's a learning curve, especially when it comes to like reading the room and understanding when somebody doesn't understand something, even though they don't say it. Mm-hmm. And so you got to kind of, for me, it's like it was a big learning opportunity for me, and this is something that I can take for the rest of my life. You know, it's like I can start teaching here, build that skill, and then teach other people in different areas also. And if I want to have my own academy one day, this is a big stepping stone, whether I want to do it or not. So that's pretty much the main thing for it.
Nice.
Yeah.
You want to follow up with that, James?
How did I get started in teaching?
Yeah.
Oh man, I think I was teaching. I said this not too long ago, but I've been teaching like as soon as I was old enough to start walking and talking in different aspects, because I grew up with nothing but teachers. So everybody in my family was a teacher. I mean, my great grandmother was a teacher. My grandmother, my mother. I went to school with all of them. When I got in trouble, I had to go in their classes. They taught younger ages, so I would have to help out. My mother participated in social programs, youth programs, summer camps. We worked in the projects where we were working with kids and working in summer camps in the projects. So it was like everything my mom did, because we were just around a bunch of educators. All of my grandmother's sisters were educators or are educators. Aunties, everybody was kind of like involved in education. So teaching was like that thing that just was natural in the household, because everybody was always trying to teach you something, because everybody was teaching. And so, I had that habit of being around a lot of teachers and schools. And then, like I said, I started working with kids later in life, trying to, I first got involved with working with at-risk youth to try to keep them out of trouble. Later on, I did some teaching in different schools and school systems within the country. I taught some little like English classes and different language classes. So kind of just, I always was in this thing of teaching. It just seemed, like he said, it kind of came natural, just because I guess that was the environment that I kind of came up in. So it just seemed to be natural to kind of want to teach something that I feel like is a great tool to help you. When people do jiu-jitsu, they do forget that aspect. They focus a lot on the fight, but they forget about learning and teaching. And it comes, because again, when we first starting out, you're more involved in the commotion and the fight of what's happening, to the point where later down the line, you start getting involved with learning and teaching. I think, and then that's where you start wanting to pass on the knowledge, because it's a each one teach one type of art. It's like you can't come in knowing, so you have to be taught. So who's teaching? There's only one teacher, and then there's assistants. Then there's other teachers within the gym, and they pass some knowledge on to you. And then, you showing the new guy the ropes. And then you're in there 5 years, 6 years, 7 years showing guys ropes. And they asking you, and then you notice you're getting better. And so then they're asking you, well, what are you doing? What you're learning? The same way you was asking, what are you doing? What are you learning? And life is teaching. We teach something to somebody every day. New job. Oh, yeah, man, you got to work with this guy. He going to teach you how to do this. Okay, come with me. Let me show you what you got to do for the job. Your kids are born. Let me teach you how to walk, talk, eat. Friends, let me teach you about this, because I just learned this new thing here. I'm starting to do this now. Let me teach you what I just learned. It can help you out. We friends. I want to give you the same that I have. So I think, teaching is everywhere. It's just sometimes people don't think they're really teaching. So I think that's why jiu-jitsu is just a natural progression of teaching and learning. So,
yep. What about you, Mitch? What made you jump into teaching?
Man, mine's is definitely different than the path that they followed. So coming up, I was blessed, right? And that's just no other way to say it. I was gifted with the speed, with the different attributes. And so I had always said in my mind, I don't want to coach.
Look at Magic Johnson.
I don't want to teach. I don't want to coach. Because I feel like if that child can't do what it is that I can technically do, then I would look at it in a certain way to where, not fair, right? And so you can't teach certain things. That was such a wrong aspect to take, right? Because once I actually got a chance to do some teaching, it made me realize, because I've always been the type of person that can help you relate, right? So we can talk about some complicated situation, and I can always break it down to a situation where I feel like I can make almost anybody understand it, right? And so I started using that attribute, and then learning jiu-jitsu, it was like, okay, I understand this pretty quick. I picked it up, right? Let me see if I can help the next person, because obviously helping each person become better is going to make you better. And that's just the whole thing. You just got to weave that fabric, right? So it takes a village. And so not only does your professor, because he can't reach everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Because he's the person that's the center focus, and then the other people there. So that's why you need your assistants, and you also need the people around the gym to kind of help out. And so when I got to seeing that aspect of it, I was like, And then we had an opportunity to do a little ninjas program. And so I'm like, okay, I'm about to go in here and work with these little 4, 5, and 6-year-old kids. And it's like, okay, I can do this, right? I can relate to these kids and I can help them out. And so, you learn there's a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. And it just became something that was so much more rewarding than actually doing anything else that I thought. And I was like, wait a minute. You know what? Boop, light bulb goes off. Somebody did this for me. My professor helped me out. When I went to college, they pulled me in and they was like, hey, all we want you to do is give back. All we want you to do is make the next person better, right? So we can keep this legacy going. And so when I started to actually teach, I became better at what I was doing because I had to actually know what I'm doing to break it down. And then when you have to know it, you have to be able to communicate it. And that's one of the things that I feel like gets lost is you'll show some kind of move or you'll show some type of technique. And you don't take into consideration that the person that's learning it may not learn like you do. And so how good of an instructor, how good of an educator are you if you can't take that information, digest it, and then regurgitate it in a way that everybody can learn?
It's
right?
universal.
You have to be a facilitator. You have to be able to make it where everything seems easy. And that's why one of the things that I really, really preach, and I'll have my kids, we'll try to show them a technique that's kind of difficult to do. And I never let them think it's hard. I'm always like, this is so easy. You can do this. Look, all you got to do is put your leg right here. All you got to do is do this. All you got to do is that. And so I think that with that attitude that I bring to them, it gives them the confidence to feel like they can do anything, right? And that's all it is. Just giving somebody that confidence to feel like they can do it. And then you'll be like, yo, look at this. Like we was looking at some of the kids the other day, and we was like, yo, the kid's getting there right now. Like before we was like, maybe we didn't think you would have this. And now we're like, man, look at this. And it just makes you feel good because I didn't invent it. I got it from someone. And then I was able to pass it successfully off to someone else. And that's all you want to do. That's what's worth in life, is just passing on. Each one teach one or pay it forward, all of those good sayings, it makes you feel better. It's better than the monetary value.
One thing I love about teaching, and this is kind of cliche, you hear it a lot when people talk about it, is the fact that you actually have to know what you're talking about in order to teach it. And not every teacher is a good coach. Not every coach is a good teacher. You can be a really good competitor and not be able to teach something, and vice versa. You might not be the best competitor, but you can definitely teach. And, there's a lot of moves that I know that when I try to teach it, I don't know how to teach it. I can't even explain it. I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, like, you just do it the way that I know how to do it, but I can't explain it. And when you get to that point and you realize that, you're like, holy moly, I actually don't know exactly how to, I can't spit this out the way I'm supposed to. In other words, I don't have as much of an understanding as I thought I did just because I can hit it properly. So, I love teaching in that aspect. Like, I've learned so much just from not knowing, if that makes sense. Like, I've been in situations where I'm about to teach a move and, like, I stutter so much, or I have to think over and over again, or I have to, like, go over it in my mind over, like, a bunch of times. And I'm like, man, like, do I really know what I'm talking about? But I hit this move all the time. And so that's just interesting to think about that. Like, it truly, like, even though it's cliche, you got to, teaching helps you understand better. It's cliche, but it's actually true. So I just want to throw that out there.
Human existence is based on that, not knowing and learning to what we don't know. That's how we continue to advance as human beings, from when we would just use stone to as tools to now we're using tools, and who knows what the future may hold. It's that question that you have seeking an answer, and you either figure it out yourself through trial and error, or you have a teacher who's going to pass you that knowledge. And the knowledge is only obtainable through practice. And that's it. So that's just the, again, back to that martial arts sense of those movies. The guy who was nothing finds the teacher gives him everything, but he still hasn't gained nothing because he hasn't used what the teacher taught him. He's so reliant on the teacher teaching him that he has not been able to execute until the teacher puts him into the test and puts him out there for him to have to test. And then in the films, he always goes back in a flashback, and everything that the teacher taught him, finally, light bulb goes off. Now he's the master. I mean, that's usually the form. Like, that's the kung fu cliche, right? You're nothing in the beginning. He formed you, he made you, but he didn't complete you. You complete yourself, and you pay homage for that, and so on and so forth. I think that's the truth of, like, human existence. We keep searching for more, right? What's next? What's new? What can I advance on? The wheel's already been invented, but how can I make it better? So we keep learning. Yeah, I think that's how it works.
I like that. So, if we can touch on a little bit about these are some topics that Dominick actually came up with. All three of you have been around gyms for a long time, and you've seen these different types of situations. How do you feel about, or giving tips on, you want to take this on the first one?
Yeah, I'll take it. So the first thing I want to mention, and I hate disclaimers, but this is important. This is not specifically for any gym in particular. This is objectively speaking, not subjective. So what I mean is that this is not a thing where it's like, if you hear this, this is about you. No. Every gym you walk into, whether it's in the United States of America or in Abu Dhabi or Poland or anywhere you're at, you're going to find these mistakes. You see what I'm saying? So this is not something that's specific to you. Don't think that we're making this about you or anything. This is not for the guys at our academy. None of that stuff. This is just something that's objective. No matter who's listening to this can probably relate, most likely, most of the time, I can probably guarantee you. All right? So the first thing that I had on my mind, so this is what we're going over, is the 5 reasons as to why you're probably not getting any better at jiu-jitsu. A lot of guys, they complain like, oh, I feel like I'm not really progressing. I keep getting beat up. I come in and things aren't working for me. Moves aren't really, I'm not making anything happen. What's the deal? I'm in here. What's going on? And so the first reason that I have as to why you're probably not improving is that you avoid good guys in your room. You avoid good guys in the gym, and you're not going after the tougher sparring partners in your academy. And you see this a lot of time with higher belts, like brown belts and black belts. They'll kind of try to, like, avoid the better guys in the room, the guys who can actually give them a hard time or kind of beat them up in a sense. They'd rather look good by beating up on the lower belts versus doing what actually makes them good by going against the higher belts, the guys who are kind of equal or above their level. And honest, in all truth, like, I understand that. Like, nobody wants to be the guy who's an expert in the room, but they get beat up by other experts or guys who are lower than them. But the thing is that jiu-jitsu is a ego-free sport, and the first thing that happens when you walk into a jiu-jitsu academy, especially when you're older, is your ego gets destroyed. And think about this. Like, a lot of times, see, I train at Atos Jiu-Jitsu headquarters, which It was ranked number 1 in the entire world for a long time. And one of the things that I noticed was that nobody in the gym was ever like the best guy. Even Andre Galvao wasn't the best guy in the room. And what I mean is that he, like, everybody in the room takes L's no matter who you are. And what I also noticed was that a guy like Andre Galvao, Lucas Barbosa, you name whatever guy you see on TV or YouTube, Flow Grappling, etc. You name these guys and you see them get beat up by other guys in their room. Happens all the time. And if these guys can walk into a gym, get beat up, and not have an ego about it, then what about me and you? And these are the best guys in the room, best guys in the country, best guys in the world. So if they take L's in their room, then what about me and you? Do you see what I'm saying? So, because I used to have a big ego. I used to think, oh, I don't want to get my butt kicked. I thought that if I got tapped in the room, it made me less than or whatever. But then I see a guy like Andre get tapped, and he's smiling, he's laughing, and he's an excellent example. I love him for that. I dropped my ego because of him. I used to have the biggest ego when I was in the room, just naturally. You get better and you start beating people up, and you don't want to lose that. You're on this hot streak in the gym or whatever it is. And I would see him take L's, and he's just, he's happy, he's smiling, he's still going, and he's still crushing guys in competition. In other words, you have to take L's in order to get better. So that's my, what's your guys' thoughts on that?
I do believe you have to be the nail in order to be a hammer. It's environment. It does have to be environment. Of course, like it is objective in certain situations. It could be subjective in certain situations as well, because relating to a person that starts new compared to someone who's already has been in the situation, and also what type of individual has reached that goal of later in the belt system. Jiu-jitsu is, even though ego is at the door, ego creeps in the door, and a belt, like a job, like a position, like a medal, it comes with hierarchy, and hierarchy has this tendency to make you feel important. Again, if I'm a dictator of a country, right, and I run a country, and I run it, and then I have all these people with me, and they're with me, and I'm the dictator, and when I say it goes, and then I bless you with a position in my cabinet, that's going to come with some ego, because you're going to feel that you have attained something that others haven't. Now, independent of how you have attained that, but you have attained something that gives you sort of a hierarchy. And then in this hierarchy, like most hierarchies, there's principles involved. There's respect, there's courage. And when these things are somewhat inflated with ego, respect is not a two-way street. It's like, again, like a dictator. My people don't like me, but when I'm in their presence, they better like me. Mm-hmm. So I demand this respect, not a respect that's more given for what I have accomplished and the people who are with me or a part of it. So again, the ego can inflate that because you've been doing something for so long. You are at the top of the food chain. Maybe you live in a small town. Maybe you live in a situation. You brought that situation to others. So yeah, you could be at the top of that food chain. And maybe your first guy you brought in with you, second guy, third guy, they start to attain same skills. So yeah, it could be hard for them to want to lose that position because sometimes subconsciously, the ego is more subconscious than conscious. Why do we hate egotistical conscious people? Because they're showing their perceived arrogance or their perceived ego, because it could be overconfidence, could be the drive that I can make myself believe by being overly confident. So I think an individual doesn't want to per se lose that, right? They call it losing face. Mm-hmm. So you have this, again, it's your job, right? And society is based on jobs like this too. If I have a job, and you come in and you perform your job better than me, what happens to me?
Right.
What happens?
Demoted.
You're demoted. You lose your position. Mm-hmm. Even if the person isn't going to take your position, in your mind, you're going to lose your position. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean in the gym we're talking about a teacher, but a position that I have a hierarchy with the wins. Like I have the hierarchy that I'm better. And I want to maintain it. Like you said, it feels good to maintain that sometimes. And it's all subconscious, because when you think consciously of it, it's like when you talk to yourself and say, I would rob a bank, and but you won't tell nobody that. You're thinking subconsciously about the negative, but you're not performing the negative. Right. The body is a habit of that. It is a creature of ego, because power breeds ego. I mean, the human existence is full of it. I don't have to go through examples, but it's a full spectrum of it. Yep. And so, again, to be a leader who is humble, who goes further a lot of times, but also at the same time, the humbleness through other individuals who can be considered to be more aggressive, like to push on that. And so you have to maintain these two levels of confidence without arrogance, ego without being allowing your ego to take you away. So you do get in the gym, and these things flare because we're emotional beings. We're human beings, and we're emotional, and some are more emotional than others. And the martial art is trying to teach you to control those emotions. So yeah, if I came in the gym, it's my first day and everybody's an animal, and I'm in there with higher belts and I'm a lower belt and I have to go through the program that way, it's going to be hard for me. It's going to be hard for me. It's going to be hard for me to come up. And so, yeah, I'm not going to pick the big role. I'm not going to pick the best guy. I'm not going to pick the guy that grinded me out and I go home with the bruise. That's not going to be the proper way to learn. But in the later aspect of it, and I am better, but also, too, I have to take into consideration a few other things. Like, okay, how old are you? How much are you working out compared to what I'm doing? So I can't say I'm living your life. So, yeah, if I go with you and you are better than me, then hopefully you dumb it down a little bit, and I can match you, and then you don't run me over with the car and then get out the car and say, why was you in the way? It's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do this to you so fast, so hard. I'm sorry. Or dumb it down without telling them, because that's the thing. And this is a fight art of time. And time is the greatest lesson. So, again, you may not have been training a long time, but you understand thought process better than some people do. So you learn faster. Maybe you don't learn as much, but you're in the gym for a long time. So you've learned over time. So yes, you can hang with a few, and you can hang with not a few. So you could be, it depends, I think, and that's where the subjective part is, because who am I, first of all? Am I 60 years old talking about I gotta fight the 20-year-old to see if I'm good? Because that's not gonna happen, right? That's reality. And that's what the art is trying to teach you. It's adaptable. It's subjective. It's objective. It depends. Okay, so if the 60-year-old guy in the room, I'm going to go with the 60-year-old guy in the room and see if I can get my level with your 60-year-old black belt with my 60-year-old blue belt. Great. Better matchup, age, maybe the weight's the same, so there. Or, independent of my injuries in the past, because we get guys in here that come from other situations, soldiers, different people that have disabilities and all that. They're, sometimes they just, the levels can't always match up. So again, you can't always put it into that situation. Now, if we're talking about a strictly competition situation, then yes. If you're in a strictly competition situation, you're looking for competition. You're looking like if I was the boxer, if I was playing on the football team, yes, I want to be the winner. So yeah, we need to fight or play or do whatever against the best. That's that case, right? So again, we have to separate the two worlds that we live in jiu-jitsu. Sometimes they can intertwine. They intertwine because if I'm in the gym and I'm just this guy regular, but I'm here with all these superstars, people fit me into that. Oh, you training with them? How come you're not that good? Whoa, hold on. Like they're doing what they're doing. I'm doing what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. But I am still trying to attain a certain level based on what my parameters are. Can I push myself more? Of course. But we all have certain things that allow us to push ourselves and certain things that don't. That doesn't make an excuse for you. Again, if you're just a guy 24 years old, you have nothing going on, and you're in the jiu-jitsu gym, and this is something that you're looking to do as a career, and the sports aspect and the competition, then I think truly you need to take it as if you were playing for the NFL. Mm-hmm. And if you're not, then maybe you shouldn't try to go down that road. Now, again, we're weekend warriors as well, because there's Sparta races, right? Mm-hmm. There's a Sparta race, the Boston Marathon. But even in the Boston Marathon, there are just guys that just want to run the marathon. But they're not trying to beat the time of the person who knows is going to win that time. You haven't prepared for that. You haven't trained for that. So again, it depends on the parameters the judge looking for. Because like when I started jiu-jitsu, I thought I was going to be an MMA fighter. And then I go into it and like, man, they're not punching. I don't want to do MMA. I'd rather do the jiu-jitsu thing because they don't punch. and I can get to compete, and I don't got to fight you. I got to take shots to the head. I'm gonna be able to talk to my kids when I'm older, things like that. Because a lot of the guys that I know that fight, man, there's a lot of honor and pride in fighting and things like that. But, I think the honor and pride is how long you can last with all your wits. I believe in Floyd Mayweather to the fullest. I learned the art of defense. I didn't go out there trying to trade punches to show my ego. That's where ego can come in. I'm trying to prove something to something that's not worth proving. So I prove it to myself and the competitor with myself, and then I put myself in the realistic sense. If I'm going to be that overly over the top weekend warrior, then I'm living my life like I'm preparing for a competition that never happens, so that I'm always prepared. So I'm not competing, or I'll put a competition in front of me to make me prepare myself independent of the result, but I have prepared myself. That will get me into a certain shape or a certain mind state that I can apply in other areas because I've learned a process. So I think that's more what is involved in the aspect of in the gym, because I played with those things in the mind of like, okay, do I need to do as much and go with this who is who and this is that? If I'm not there, then hopefully when I go with them, they teach me something. But I've been with guys that are good, and it's like, you felt like, again, you got ran over by a Mack truck and you didn't learn anything in the end other than that you need to learn more. And depending on the situation, that's where subjective is depending on the situation. But objectively, if I was 24 in my early 20s, maybe I started jiu-jitsu from a youth. So this is all I know, and I want to reach the top, like the kid that started at his youth dribbling that basketball, shooting on the court, that youth throwing that football, carrying the football everywhere he goes. Because that's, again, like I had a friend of mine who raised his kids. Soon as they was born, he threw things in their arm in the crib, and they're doing that, right? Professionally. Football. Professionally, he made it to the NFL. As soon as he was born, he put a football in his arm. That kid walked around with a football. He went everywhere with the football. Football was ingrained in him. He only knows football. But to make it to the top level of football is like winning the lottery. So you need to, yes, go with the best, push the best, work the hardest, try to find the best training, do everything you need to do, because that's what it's going to take. But if I'm just a Joe Smo raising 5 kids and I want to find something that's going to get me in shape, I need to be smart. I need to be in a location that they're smart, that they're going to help me attain that. And maybe I'm still in my youth a little bit, that I can change myself into something else and maybe adapt into that lifestyle. Or again, it applied something into my own day and own life, and I can apply that into what I do. And that's what I believe that you have to do in the gym as far as that. But I think the training has to be dependent of the individual who is using that training. Are you coming to class a lot? Because, again, that's worthless to fight the guy that's better than you if you don't even come to class. It's not even worth it if you're not educating yourself. You're just wasting your time for what you want, and you're going to be more discouraged, because the mentality of what I want and what I do to get what I want is so in today's society is so muffled. It's like, oh yeah, I'm with this guy. I hang with him, so I'm going to be as good as him, but I don't do what he does. I'm just with him. I'm just in his presence. So his presence is going to make me great. And so they're like, okay, I'm in the presence of greatness, but I'm not doing nothing great. I know a lot of that, and then there's the people that the presence of greatness you're around, and he rubs off on you, and you're great because you see what he's doing. So you imitate, because we imitate as human beings. What does your children do as soon as they're born? They imitate you. So that's way more important than anything you will ever do in life. So you could be preaching the world to them, but they see you doing everything is what they see, and they imitate what you do. And that's the first thing that's embedded into your children, and that goes with them. And you can't break that. It's so hard to break that in life. Like, you can go the first 5 years of teaching them your imitations, and they're imitating you, and then you're going to want to break that later in life. It's all loaded in the subconscious. It's very hard to break it. Again, this is psychology. Jiu-jitsu is so ingrained with psychology that it's more psychology than physiology. Physiology is the part of psychology. Right? If you can control your mind to make your body do those things, then you can perform. But again, I have to be realistic. If I'm too late in life because I just got my life together, then I'm probably not going to attain that. But what I can do is set a goal for myself and my age group and my weight and whatever I'm doing, and then I can go and try to fight the best for that. And then when I do fight the best, because I'm in shape, I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm losing to them, but guess what? I'm losing and learning. and they're helping me. So then when I fight the guy my age or my group or my range, I'm probably going to do that best. And I'm going to be the champ of that for me. And that's good. That's the competition against me. So yes, seek out and learn and challenge yourself, but be realistic with yourself. And so that's where I relate with that. Because sometimes that's the comment that he made can work, but again, it's who's the person that's talking about that, right? You know, like he was saying, not to pinpoint any individual or individuals or whatever gyms and things like that or so on and so forth. But yeah, first is, what are you doing and what do you want to do? You know, because that's a lot of times people come to the jiu-jitsu gym and they want to do a lot of things, but they end up not doing that because it changed. Their perception was totally changed when they realized, oh, it's a lot of hard work.
I'm not like that.
You know, yeah, I wasn't built like that. I didn't realize it was this much hard work. You know, because, you know, outside when you come in, it's like, oh, everybody should do jiu-jitsu. Great, do jiu-jitsu. It's going to be easy for you. And this is what you're going to learn, and you're not going to get hurt, and you're going to be in here learning all of these fancy moves that'll help you in the street. But what if you never have physical contact? What if you're not the most physical person when it comes to making movements and working out and doing the little extras? Because yes, if you go back to the history and the roots of the martial art, it has the beginning of, before you can attain the techniques, you have to first build the temple. You cannot praise, right, without having that temple. You know, you can praise without it, but if you it's better to have a home. So your body's your temple. You have to first take care of that. If your home isn't taken care of, there's nothing you can do outside of that. You know. So if you're not taking care of your body, you're not taking care of your mind, you're not taking care of your routine, you're not taking care of your discipline, then just throw everything out the window, because the other part is going to be hard to attain, because that's the true essence of attaining those things is self-discipline, and then saying, okay, recognizing in my life where I'm at and what I'm going to do with that. And then you can apply it in the gym. So again, in the competition sense, yes, I say look for the best training, the best roles, and find what's going to challenge you. Until you find that, that's where you're going to blossom, and you're looking for that. And we should be, and as human beings, we should accept that, be happy with that, help the person achieve that, because maybe I can't give it to you, you know, but maybe you can get it from someone else, you know. And it's hard to separate and break apart, but you know, if it's not working here, well, just look, man, it's over here. It could be where you make it at, and that's where you go. So you have, like college, right? Football, right? Let's talk about football, college. What happens if your school's not giving you the position? You're riding the bench. Maybe the coach didn't like, whatever the reason may be, but you're not getting what you thought you were going to get, and you want to attain that level. You might transfer to a school, right? And then you excel. How many quarterbacks? How many wide receivers, running backs were at one school, then excel, moved to another school and excelled, right? And then yeah, and in those fields we congratulate that. Yeah, we still talk dirty or whatever about the player because he was on this NFL team and then he moved to that NFL team and he won a Super Bowl. And it's like, oh, LeBron, we didn't win in Cleveland. Well, it's not solely my fault. I'm just one guy. It's a team sport. Yeah. I go over here. I win the championship with Miami. Maybe I learn with Miami a little bit more. I go back to Cleveland and now we win a championship. Because again, I brought something new to the table. So like he just said, I went somewhere, didn't get it, go somewhere, got what I wanted, came back, showed my people, and now we winning.
There you go.
Boom.
That's how we win.
I agree. And you know what? Like I agree with what you said with like, if you're 24 or if you're 60, you don't want to pick a fight with a 24-year-old who's much bigger than you. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying, like, mainly is that if you have somebody who's around the same exact situation as you, same age, same weight, he's not going to hurt you, right? If you're 130, you don't want to pick a fight with the 250 guy. But if you're around the same weight, the stats are the same. On paper, you guys are pretty even. Mm-hmm. Go with that person. Why not? Why are you? If the only reason why you're not rolling with somebody is because you're going to get beat by this person, that's a problem.
I agree.
If you're going to get beat up if you're going to get hurt by this person, that's one thing. I don't roll with everybody in the gym. If I know somebody's probably going to hurt me, I stay away from that person 100%. I
agree.
But if there's somebody who's if the only reason why you don't want to roll with somebody is because
I'm gonna lose,
that's out. That's not going to work.
Well, with that, it boils down to fear.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what it is.
Fear of failure goes far in life.
Yeah, everything that you guys just discussed, you can not necessarily sum it up in one word, but it is the fear. Because that individual coming in and seeing what he is supposed to be versus what he really is, it's the fear.
It's failure. Fear of failure. Life is tough with failure.
That's exactly what it is.
Life is tough with failure. It starts in the home, too. As children, failure is like driven into you that you're nothing and nobody when you fail. Failing is like the worst thing in the world. the winners, or they, like you could be like fought through 50 people. You get to the top, it's you and another guy first, second. Nobody cares about second.
Nobody cares about second.
Nobody cares about second.
First-
That failure is
first
so
loser.
detrimental to your psyche and your subconscious.
I don't know if you guys.
Fear of failure is definitely why you fail all the time. You just say, I'm not even going to try it because I'm going to fail. Right. So you've already killed yourself. You eliminated yourself. And then you're the one that says, okay, I'm going to try it. And you're like, you have those people that's like, I'm going to try it, but you know how it's going to go.
Right.
And then it happens and you already predestined so you're already eliminate yourself. And then you're the person that's like, I'm going to try it. I believe in myself. I failed. I'm going to go back again. I tried. I believe in myself. I failed again. You know what? I'm done.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys have ever heard that saying, but fear, it says pain is fear leaving the body, right? So if you fear something, you jump into it and you get better. So that pain that you feel from the fear is going to help you improve, because pain is nothing but fear leaving the body. So I've always heard that. And so it's like when I get in those situations, I'll come into a situation that I might think may be overwhelming or whatever. It's like, I don't care. This balls to the wall. I could give a shit less. I'm going to go get you. You feel me? And you're going to have to beat me up. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to learn from that. I'm not a stupid individual, so I will take into consideration what I'm doing. I might make the same mistakes here and there, so forth and so on, but I'll never give up. You know what I mean? Because I'm looking for something for myself that I don't need validation from anybody else. You know what I mean? And so when people come in, that all of it plays into fear. It's like you walk in and all of a sudden you think you're supposed to be something because you have this image of yourself, and you're fearing somebody really exposing you for who you are. So yeah, I don't want to roll with Dominick. He's too big. Oh, you know what? My hamstring hurt today. Maybe I don't want to do that. Man, get you on Friday. You know what I mean? Then they don't show up on Friday. It's like, fam, just come in and get better. Nobody in here is judging you to an extent to where, oh yeah, we're gonna talk about you when you leave. No, man, we all want to get better. So just stop being fearful and go for it.
A failure. It has to be failure. It's the fear of failure, because fear is fear. Fear is a different thing from failure. So like fear, yes, I could be afraid. I come in here, I'm afraid, right? Mm-hmm. I'm new. That's a different type of fear.
I agree.
Yeah. So failure, because you can't make the word fear for everything. Because okay, I fear you because you might shoot me, so I'm just gonna go dive at you. No, I mean that's fear. Exactly. That's fear of okay, I'm on the island and it's a tsunami. I'm going to just swim my way out of it. That's a different type of fear. It's fear of losing your life. Then there's the fear of failure. So because you can come into a gym and be fearful because you are going to get hurt, because you never got into, people say that all the time. Again, as the owner, as the person that works in the gym, and you have to talk to the person before they get on the mat. Oh, well, man, I had a bad shoulder injury and I just don't want to re-injure it. The fear of getting hurt is way bigger than saying I'm going to fail. Mm-hmm. So I can't put failure with fear of injury, fear of, again, something may happen to me. But fear of failure, that's where those play into, because it's failure. So the person that is, again, training and doesn't work out or doesn't take care of their bodies per se, or they have a fragile body, because everybody is different. Sometimes we have this tendency to ball everyone into a pool and say that you're supposed to do what this guy's doing because you're in this gym and this is what this guy does, and that's what it is. But it's more, again, it's certain failures. You could, like, again, if you come to the gym and you don't learn a technique, you didn't even roll with anybody, you don't even learn technique, you get mad at yourself. You failed. So you're not fearful of failing in the sparring. You're just mad at yourself, because it could be the same way, in a relationship. You feeling like, you're not loved or you're not wanted. It's that failure, that a parent, I'm not being a great parent. It's the failure. And then that failure compounds on anxiety and stress to keep you from doing what you want to do. You're not flowing. And I think we got to understand the fear of failure compared to the fear of something that's more dangerous or detrimental. And, because that's, again, we can talk from our position, because there's athletes in here, there's people that are in shape. But, what about the fear? Because when I first started teaching jiu-jitsu, I taught a person who, number one, was a female. Number two, she was domestically in a situation where she was threatened, abused, and hurt. So contact, not happening. Trying to talk to people, not happening. Fear of it could happen again, always in her mind. Fear that somebody's hunting her down all day long. So what I'm supposed to say to you, no, you got to go into that. You got to fight into that. You got to fight that fear. Yeah, you got to fight the fear, but let me give you some tools to help you fight that fear. Let me show you where we can fight this fear at. And this, over time, let's work at breaking this fear down. Now this fear is not so fearful of what the situation is, and we can change that situation from fear of injury, danger, loss of life, into more failure. And I can overcome the failure, because that's not a loss of life. That's just a fear of I haven't achieved what I determined. Because we determine as human beings more than we accomplish. Because everybody tells you as a child, no, baby, you can do everything. You're going to be a king. You can be a president. But you got pauper discipline. You have, you didn't teach them those tools that they need to attain. So fear is naturally what is going to come into play. Fear of failure. I don't have the tools, I'm going to fail. I already know I'm going to fail. But I'm here trying to show everybody else that I'm not fearful, so I end up failing, and then I just kind of like shun and I get away. This is the majority of how kids get into trouble, right? Again, psychology is more into things than we see, but most kids get into trouble for what? Because they lack some type of guidance. They lack something, and that guidance gave them this fear of, this is going to happen to me, or this is going to happen. So we start putting up these barriers to try to cloak that, so you don't see what I truly feel inside, which is kind of that fear, that weakness, that lack of, or the failure of. So because what is a thing that we say, okay, I grew up like this, so I have a fear that I don't want my kids to grow like that, and you end up doing the same thing, they end up doing the same thing too, because you didn't see the steps and the patterns that you need to do. It's all education and teaching and learning. We're not having the tools to give us. This is why jiu-jitsu pulled me in, because we were not given the tools. Jiu-jitsu is giving you tools. It's giving you methodical movements, methodical techniques, thinking processes, mental toughness and fortitude, learning how to also build your body up so you can help your mental be strong. Because again, your mind strong, your body weak. Your body weak, mind strong. All these things go back and forth. If it's not balanced, then you can't attain anything in life. That's the temple. So I got a strong mind, but my body is slop. My body's in shape, but my mind is weak. And then I take that, and then I got that good, but I have a bad spirit. Inside, I'm evil. I do bad things. I have a bad tendency. Again, you're off balance. So fear is what keeps us from attaining our balance. Fear of falling keeps you from balancing. You fall anyway. Yep. So it's that fear that you're going to fall. So you just rather not even walk down that way because you're going to fall. You're already fearing the fall, and you need to fall. Skateboarding is a good example of that. You have anybody skateboarding in here?
Oh, yeah. I used to, yeah.
You skateboard? If I would say the first day you skateboard, did you do the tricks that you later in life that you do now?
Oh, yeah. No.
You were more feared of falling, right? And until you master that, you had to fall to master the fear of falling, correct? What's the first thing you learned in jiu-jitsu? How to fall.
Yeah.
How to fall, right? Because you're going to have to do a front roll, back roll. You're going to have to get thrown maybe. You're going to have to do somebody going to do the double leg. All the simple things that we teach are going to most likely involve falling. Getting swept, getting pushed back, making yourself fall on your back. You're going to fall. And that fear sometimes keeps people saying, I don't want to do the front roll. I don't want to do the back roll. I don't want to do I don't want to do judo because I'm going to fall. So again, it's a fear of that failure of something. Again, injury could be involved. Body type could be involved. So we have to distinguish failure as a main factor that drives us not to want to achieve certain things, more so than just I'm scared of what. Because when I started, I was scared, because I thought I was tough and I could take some things, but I didn't know what they were doing. So then it's like, oh man, this dude could have broke my arm. And sometimes it felt like my arm got broke. And then I start thinking, do I want to go back tomorrow? So you can think that's every guy starting out that just hasn't been through a lot of street fights, a lot of tough situations in their life, where they're not worried about the pain that they have to let go, right? Because I already dealt with pain. So I've learned how to deal with pain. So getting hurt, I've been punched or fought or this or that. So, you can able to deal with pain. But some people don't deal with pain in the physical sense, sometimes even in the emotional sense. So again, it's that a true fear of failure is what I think the fear of failure, to be honest, in achieving, not again fear of loss, of detriment loss, but a fear of achieving is probably the biggest detriment that keeps people from achieving potential. I believe that I know it from my own experience. I know it from teaching, working with kids, and those experiences of what they couldn't attain through failure. The bullies, they're afraid. They're afraid that people know that they're really, the failure. They find out, I'm not this, I'm not that, what they thought I was, and so that fear makes me put on this tough exterior, this demeanor that I go around angry at people, because I don't want people to see inside of me what I'm living with, that failure that I am because of this. And this might not be their fault of their own, so sometimes we have to, because I think when we talk in jiu-jitsu, sometimes we talk specifically on a competition point, but we forget the everyday average guy that's coming in here. Who is the majority?
The majority.
That's the majority.
Mm-hmm.
That's the majority. And so that majority guy is that same guy who could be having some difficulty in his life. And if you're not helping him also deal with those things, then he's bringing that into here. Mm-hmm. And that's what he's trying to master in here so he can master it out there. Now, in the competition sense, we have to go into, again, sport, competition, that all applies. Everything applies, I think, in the competition sense when you need to take it to the extreme. If I'm going to be the best, I got to take it to the extreme. I think that's where that falls into play. But if I'm in for a hobbyist, I'm in for my friends, I'm in because my friend dragged me. Can you imagine if you were a friend? I did this to all my friends. Like Mitch is talking about, he's the guy. I brought all my friends into jiu-jitsu. They was like, I'm not going back there, man. Dude popped my wrist. I got to work tomorrow. Or, man, the dude put me in a choke, and it was like, I can't do that. And I respect that. I didn't go and say, man, you soft, man, you this, you weak. No, I understand. It's like that's not easy to just walk into and to perform. It's not, especially when people are experienced. And that's one thing too. Experience and knowledge goes a long way in here. And so you could come in tough. You go walk out with your ego crushed because you did it. You don't have the skills, and that's what life is about, right? Skills. It's skills. The ones that have skills do better than the ones that don't.
Yeah, that hard head make us all fast. That's how it works. For sure.
So I think we have to separate the competitive, the competition. That's a group, and they're a group of their own.
You're right.
And then there's the group, and so I can imitate them. So I'm over here. I see that guy, man. He works out every day.
Let me try that.
You know what? Let me get off the couch a little bit, start working out a little bit, because that was me. That was me, right? My background is probably like these two guys. They don't have my background. No. They don't have my background in the art. They don't have my background before the art. So I'm the guy that everybody that talks to those guys, they're talking to the me. Yeah, they're talking to me. You can relate. Right? I'm not as athletic as these two guys. I wasn't, but I made myself athletic through watching and imitating. Watching the guys doing that. And that's pretty much was my whole life as growing up. Who's doing what? And I want to be like that guy. I want to be that guy. And what is he doing? So I'm watching him. I'm watching his demeanor. I'm watching what makes him what makes him work. And that's what I'm trying to imitate. I've always done that. I've always tried, because imitating is how we progress too. The generation is an imitation of the generation before it, and then we just modify some things to adapt to the future of what is old and what is going to change to something new. Because you can't do old forever. Old still has its tradition and its place, but old can't be forever. If that's the case, we still be using rotary phones. Or not. They're obsolete. You can still make a phone call on it. You might have it as a souvenir, but it's obsolete. I can carry this phone with me now. I'm not going home. Remember how it used to be? Got to go home and ask, who called me today? Let me check the voicemail. Got the played your music on the voicemail.
From the kitchen.
Hit play. Have the voice. Remember having to go home and hit your voicemail, and then I ain't answering that. Today you can't run from it. Yeah. So again, what's obsolete is gone. Right. Sometimes we want obsolete, right? You wish you could go back now to that rotary phone and go answer your voicemails that when you get home. Yeah. So that way, I called you. I left you a message. You got that.
Not till later on.
I did. I was busy. My phone was off. Right. It was on vibrate. I didn't feel it. You got all types of excuses of why you couldn't answer the phone, and you had it, and you saw it like, I left a voicemail. Let me listen to it. You're like, I didn't hear it. But yeah, so there's two worlds that we live in. Sometimes they can mesh because we're, you got the gym, and you got this guy. He's really good. He's winning, and I'm just this guy, and I'm with him. So we're in that same boat sometimes. So that's where we can improve. That's what I like about being in the competitive gym. That's what I like about being in the gym where they're competing. Because if this guy is competing then it may give me an edge in my competition. And that again, competition of life. It gives me an edge, makes me more disciplined, makes me more focused, because he's focused. They're zoned in, you know, and they're doing that at a young age. Like, these guys are doing it at a young age. High school, you know, I can imagine if I could apply the jiu-jitsu mentalities of high school, I would have been the president of the United States. Because just the way that these young guys are so zoned in and focused at such a young age that they accomplish so much, it's unheard of. Like, again, I know so many teenagers today, and then I know teenagers in jiu-jitsu. It's like, man, they really putting in, you know, they putting in work. You know, same thing for those kids that want to go to the NFL. They put in that work.
Yeah.
You know, the ones that ain't, you know.
Yeah, long shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, next, bro.
Next
You
question.
don't got anything to say about it?
No, I'm soaking it in.
Oh, okay,
I'm
for
just
sure.
soaking it in.
Cool. So the second reason why you probably aren't getting any better, you might be experiencing some sort of like plateau, is that you ineffectively drill and you're not paying attention during instruction. Now, of course, this is obvious, right? You're not paying attention. Well, you might miss the details, but think about it. How many times have you done a technique, right? And you might say to yourself, well, I might not hit that, but that same concept that you learned from the technique, you applied it to somewhere else. For example, if your instructor's harping on you squeezing on a triangle, right? Squeezing your legs in a triangle and all that stuff, you know, pulling the head down and these types of things, and then you drill that from time to time properly, you might just automatically drill it. When you hit an arm bar, you might squeeze your legs on the arm bar, and you're like, wait, I didn't really drill the arm bar that way, but I got that from my triangle drilling. So even though you might not use that one specific technique the way that he taught it that day, there's concepts that you'll take from that and apply it to other things. You see what I'm saying? And the ineffectively drilling part is that's a big thing, where you see guys where the one who's attacking, the one who's doing the move, and also the one who's receiving the move. It's like, you can't be a limp noodle if you're being the uke. You can't be a guy who's not reacting properly to when someone's doing moves on you. If I'm going for a leg drag or something like that, you can't just lay there and be sort of dead with your arms dangling. You can't be like that, because the guy that I do the actual leg drag to is not going to be laying like that. You see what I'm saying? And so what you're giving is this false sense of how the move's going to actually turn out, and the guy on top might not be ready for that because of the way you've been drilling it with him.
Correct.
And if you're on top, you want to give the correct amount of pressure, the correct amount of squeeze, whatever you need to do, the correct amount of speed. With pressure, you got to give the correct amount that you're going to want to hit either in practice or in matches in order for it to be effective. So you might be a guy who's drilling something over and over again, but you're drilling it wrong. Yeah. And since you're drilling it wrong, you're trying to hit it either in competition or just in the room, and you're wondering why it's not working for you. And it's because you're not drilling it properly. So that's all I have to say about that. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, too much sometimes is too much. I know we've had some of those discussions. You know, Professor Nival came and did a seminar, and one of our questions that was asked was about doing something, and, you know, it was flashy, looking really good, but then sometimes the best answer is the straight answer. You know, can you come to work today? Well, you know, I might be able to make it. I don't know if I'm going to be, you know, that. No, I can't make it. Right. There we go. Exactly. Let's keep it moving. So sometimes the best is straight. And like you said, you have to be a good partner, because I have the privilege of being this guy's partner all the time. And so there's an unwritten kind of like language, right? And you know that you've been his partner as well. We've all been partners with James when we've been going over instruction, and there's an unwritten part, right? And so when you're trying to teach something, if the person on the bottom doesn't really react right, doesn't know what's going on, then it kind of it deters the class. It throws things off, and so then you can't really get what you're trying to get. Same thing in a drilling session, right? If you're trying to drill and then he's got to stop and teach you how to react to the drill, and it's just like, what's the point? What's the point of doing that? So, you know, you have to have both partners doing the proper reactions so you can get better. And then once you get that, now there may be a session in the beginning where you can say, okay, here's what I'm going to work on. Here's what I need you to do for me. Quickly go over that part of it, and then you just drill it and hit it. So it has a meaningful purpose versus just doing something just to be doing it.
Who watches Dancing with the Stars? And you guys watch Dancing with the Stars?
I haven't
watched it.
Do you understand the concept of Dancing with the Stars?
Just people that don't know how to dance.
With people that know how to dance. So I think, again, I think a lot of us are talking from a already stated part in their life and their progression of the art. We're talking again, like we've already fast forward into the future, and you're a 10-year, 20-year person that's been doing the art. And yes, you have certain situations where like you could be a good partner, bad partner, so on and so forth. The idea of Dancing with the Stars is you're a non-dancer, I'm a dancer. So the dancer has to be the one that kind of guides the non-dancer through practice. In Dances with the Stars, the person who's a non-dancer has to commit to learning how to dance. First part is you have to learn what you're doing before you can execute what you're doing. So if I brought you to class, or you're a guy, because I didn't bring you to class, you brought yourself. You only came 1 week out of 1 month. What kind of dancer would you be? Would I want to choose you as my partner to dance with? When we have to practice the steps. You're not here. I was on a dance team in high school. Do you know what happened when you didn't show up to dance practice? You weren't dancing, right? But we're in a business where you're showing up like you show up at the gym without someone to drag you in the gym. Again, I think we have to think about this first. Like, who are you practicing with? What are they doing? Right. What are they doing outside of the gym? We keep talking from this more base of like, is it particular to someone, or is it to the group, or like, so why people are not advancing? It can go back to education. How many in your class graduated? How many studied? How many got straight A's? How many was the ones that advanced and went to college, got a degree? How many along the way didn't make it because of them? Right? And I have this to give that, like, because again, it's not solely based on the program. I think the program gives, just like in a relationship. If I'm the one in the relationship giving everything and you're giving nothing, I want to split. Because what are we here for? I'm giving so much and you're not putting the effort for it. Same thing as an instructor. I put this effort in this relationship. You got to give back. So if you're not giving back in the relationship, then your failure is your own fault. It's not mine. So you have to look at, and that's life, right? You go to work. You're going to get fired. You're in a bad relationship. You're going to get it split. And then you're going to be blaming people, right? And you're looking for the easy way out, because life today is about the easy way out. I can blame everybody and get out of any problem, right? Because in the truth of it is, learning something like dance, skills like archery, wood cutting, plumbing, electricity, things that require skill. Okay, you think you're going to go play with some wires if you didn't go to electrician school, you didn't show up as an apprentice every day, no, you're going to kill yourself. You're going to touch a wire, you're not going to know what happened, and you're going to die, right? So again, it's about you as discipline. And your coach is he should be the most disciplined as an example. So he can see, number one, your discipline. This is why I try to iterate to people in the gym. Show up on time. When I let you not show up on time and I don't rag on you, then what is the point of me being the coach? Because I'm trying to instill discipline on you. You know what I'm saying? So you get mad at me, you want to cancel your membership? Cancel it. Because what am I here for? I'm not helping you. I'm enabling you to be a loser, right? You're in jiu-jitsu to take away your losing, to take away your loser, right? You're a loser, things that make you a loser, right? You're a loser if you're lazy laying on the couch. That's what they call you. But today you can do that and not be considered a loser. But back in the day, like with my grandmother was the type of person, and back then I don't want to say hate my grandmother, but I used to be so mad at my grandmother because like she would come down and on the weekend and kick me out the house. But like, you're not just going to lay around here. Go outside and do something. I don't know. Go do something. I'm like, what? It's my day off. Like, I don't care. Go do something with yourself. You're just not going to lay around here like a lazy bum. Right? I'm glad for my grandmother because, I used to think as a kid, my grandmother's hard, man. She tough. And she used to always, I came from, discipline. My mother disciplined us and we couldn't do this and that. Yeah, it can be extreme. But at the same time, there's lessons in that. I know the people who had a lot harder parents on them, they always did better.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They always did better. Right? Than the kids that didn't have the tough parents who let them get away with stuff. And then there's always exceptions to the rule. So there's never, this is a one size fits all. But again, speaking from experience, I speak from experience. I speak from the experience of lack of discipline, lack of good structure, whether it was trying to be embedded into me. But the least what I did have was they didn't quit. They didn't quit on trying to instill discipline and structure in my life. That's what got me alive and kept me alive, right? Because I do believe if you don't have self-discipline, you're not in control of your own life. I did not have self-discipline. I was not in control of my life. So many outside forces were in control of my life because I was trying to find out who I was in that situation. Poor decision making is probably one of the biggest things that we make on a day-to-day basis. But if somebody enables us to make those decisions, then we accept making poor decisions as good decisions. So, you're out here making decisions every day. So decision one is okay, today I'm going to miss class. You know what I missed today? I'm going to miss tomorrow. I'm going to come late. I'm not even going to pay attention when I come because, who knows what my night was before. And do I make excuses for you or allow you to make excuses? That's up to you. It's not my job to make excuses for you. And it's not, so I try not to push too hard, but I also try to give a little bit of leeway because we're human beings and everybody's not going to be me and everybody's not going to be disciplined. But you can't achieve the goals that you want if you're not into that, and that's the thing that goes further than anything. Yep. So those disciplines of like, I'm working with my partner. Yeah. Would I want to work with you if you don't show up and I need you to do the technique that you're doing? That's not my problem. That's kind of like, and if I give it to you hard, like if I was a parent with tough love, you may shy away because you're not ready to hear that because you slacking. Because the one that slacks always the one that rebels first. That's the one that gives you the hardest time. Oh, what this is, I had this hard and this is this and this and this. And then you kind of keep having to fight with that to the point where you don't want to fight with that no more. So you just move on. And again, that can happen because jiu-jitsu is a reflection of life and life is a reflection of that. So again, if I'm talking about the guy, I got to get you more discipline to make you do better things. Yeah, that's probably where we got to start to talk about first, which we don't want to talk about because we're in a business. So we don't want to start to get into lives, but this is what this is. This is a personal situation. I'm giving my time to better your life. Right? I'm bettering your life because I see lives bettered from it. Mm-hmm. Yep. Poor get better from jiu-jitsu for the opportunities because they realize, right? Or overweight or had trauma because people come to jiu-jitsu for trauma. So you got to remember that's, again, we're in here with people with trauma. You're in here as an athlete, competitor, but then you don't even know if you're messing with somebody who has serious trauma. So they are in here maybe to relieve some stress for the trauma. And we're talking about doing leg drags. You know what I'm saying? So again, we don't know the individuals per se when they're in there. So we just try to help everybody to the best that they can. But that has a lot to play with it because I think your choices outside of the gym affect you inside of the gym. So if I'm making good choices in the gym, that means I'm making good choices outside of the gym. Sure. And those choices are going to help me in here. Or I learn to make good choices in here, so that helps me make good choices out there because we make bad decisions in the gym. Bad decisions out in life, you tapping out. Or you're going to try to avoid the tap, like you're trying to avoid the bad decisions. You're going to make bad decisions with the good guy because he's practicing, he's studying, he's doing really well. So you avoid that so you don't fall into the traps of failure. And life is the same way. I can avoid that. I try to maneuver around that. Being adults is the best way we can do that. Our kids can't. We force our kids to do stuff and force them into these situations. But adults, as soon as they realize adulthood is in the way, I can maneuver around all of the difficulties of decisions I made. Right? I made bad decisions, so now I got to deal with them. So I can face my reality and be accountable, or I can just start blaming others. It's the coach, it's the team, it's the gym, it's this. I don't like this because this is what you do. You choose me, you pick on me, blah, 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 blah. And then you start kind of like, again, it's the pity party, feeling sorry for yourself. Coach try to help you, but how far can he help? So again, I think that has a lot to do with when we come into the gym. We're in a gym. There's regular people and then there's athletes. So the regular person has probably had a hard day at work. So hopefully, we can try to help him. Maybe his health could get better. That makes his day where he can sleep. He can feel better. But again, we don't know. Inconsistent habits. These are things that happen a lot. Inconsistency. I think inconsistency in jiu-jitsu is the worst thing you can do. You set yourself back every day. You're inconsistent. So then you take that into your life, man, I was supposed to do this. I keep inconsistently lacking in that point. Someone's going to call you on that eventually, work, relationship, wherever it may be. So you're inconsistent training, inconsistent learning, inconsistent practicing. You're inconsistent, and you're coming in and you feel you should be somewhere because time is going, but you're not there with time. It happens the same way in a relationship. You feel like you just because you're in the relationship, but you're not giving nothing to your wife or spouse or your husband or whatever. You're just in the relationship. So we've been together 40 years, but them 40 years, you gave me hell.
Right.
Facts.
40 years, you gave me hell.
Facts.
Like I was doing everything to try to help you, but I was just trying to stay in the relationship to try to, but for 40, and then it just comes to that point because we making inconsistent habits in the, oh, I didn't see this, I didn't recognize that, or because over time, they know me, so they just accept me. And that's what it is. You're not helping that person. And then what they're doing is they're pushing too on you to make you kind of form to their habits. And then when you form to their habits, you've lost control, Again, back to that
Lost
point,
yourself.
you can't get control. It's fighting because like they're saying here, it takes discipline to create good habits. And if you don't develop the discipline, you will always fall victim to your bad habits, and your success will never exceed your habits, right? And then unreliable motivation, like motivation comes and goes. So you're the guy that, yo, I'm in town, let's go train. Oh, let's go. You going? I ain't going. So you're only motivated when things motivate you. But you're not coming in there on that day, like you said, coming in there when I'm tired. So this is where I can start to learn how to be resilient. Man, I used to do flooring before I would train. Do you know what the job of flooring is? Like, people don't know the job of flooring. You're on your knees, you're bent over, your back, you're lifting ceramic, you're lifting heavy bags and stuff like that. And then you go and train and have some guy do all this other stuff while you're already aching and paining. So again, that breeds resilience. And so now you're kind of like, you're coming and your coach is like, yo, man, you worked really hard, man. Come, I know you working, and you still showed up, man. You starting to feel like you feel motivated from that. And so even when you feeling like, oh, I'm tired, man, but I'm still gonna go. Same that I think that's what got me through jiu-jitsu. Oh man, so and so's in the gym, I'm gonna have a rough time. But you know what? Let me go in there anyway. I'm tired. Let me go anyway. I went to work. Let me go anyway. But a lot of times we can just say that. I had the kids that I ain't going. Or I'm tired, I ain't going. Or you know what, I had a pizza last night, I ain't going. I had a beer, I got drunk, I ain't going. Yeah. Or I'm just stressed. So then, you're making stress everywhere, stress in life, stress in the gym. So I think that too has a lot to do with it. And then, delayed gratification. I think gratification is involved a lot with jiu-jitsu. You're paying a bill, so sometimes the professors want to gratify you with accolades that aren't necessary or needed or even warranted, because he wants to keep you in the gym, because he kind of sees that you're not the motivated. So I think those are my beliefs and my top reasons of why people don't excel in the lower aspect of it. It's because it's hard, one, to come in. Then you have other life stressors that come into play. It can keep you from those things. And then also, who are you as an individual with your habits? Because, like guys that always come in fit, doing all these other things, like these weekend warriors, running Spartas, these guys have a tendency to already know like the toughness. And then they have to fall into the jiu-jitsu toughness. Like, there's this little kid choking me out and I used all my muscle. And so now I have to try to adapt what I've learned in my life of being able to overcome obstacles, and then try to overcome the obstacles of learning the techniques and fighting the people that it is. So that's where I truly believe people fail in their learning process. It's just kind of like some of those outside stressors that kind of come into play. You have kids, you got a job, it can be a factor, and you have to equate that in there too. And that's where we kind of come into one-on-one training. I think one-on-one training can help a person like that compared to group. I don't think group can help people really well if they're not really that well disciplined. Right. And that's where I believe it is a big factor. I know there's a lot of information, but I believe that helps, because I see my guys and I know the guys that they could probably use more outside help, and then there's the guys in the gym, I can help them in the gym and they take that and go. But I wouldn't. It's being a teacher and being around teachers in the school, it's the same way with kids, right? If I teach, I can't touch every kid in the classroom. I know this kid got to learn disability. I know this kid, I might know his home situation. I might know this. I can't touch you all. So what do? We find strategists. We find individuals that'll pull you out the class, talk to you, counsel you, do things like that, one-on-one basis, help you, give you that therapy, give you that tutoring. You need that. Education is what this place is. It's called an academy. It's a school. I'm a professor or teacher. We have students. Education is so involved in this. If you lack that point of methodical thinking in education, you've already kind of failed. You're just in here fighting, right? And all arts that are fighting are technical prowess. Every art that you fight that's fighting, it's a technical thing. So you have to be educated with the learning process of the techniques. So paying attention, being here, being on time, motivated for learning, being a good partner, being involved with your partner, accepting criticism, accepting that he's pushing you and not clowning you and not trying to put you down, that he's trying to push you to get past that, maybe because they were in your shoes, probably worse. You don't know everybody's life and they don't know yours. So those are, I think, the main driving factors that can help every individual overcome, not only in jiu-jitsu, but in life. And that's where I believe that people kind of come through.
I like that.
Yeah, that's exactly
good. Okay.
what we said.
Cool.
For sure.
So the third reason why that we have here is that you fail to ask questions after rolling with quality people.
Education.
A lot of times what happens is guys will get beat up by somebody and they'll kind of get upset about it and they'll walk away, or they'll just kind of rush to the next round. But the reality of the matter, actually, and you hear a lot of wrestling coaches talk about this, where you're going to learn the most usually in one of two situations, either when you're sparring or when you rode somebody really good and he beats you up and you ask him questions as to what happened. What I used to do when I was at Atos, there's a guy that I look up to. His name is Rolando Sampson. He's a black belt. He's a Filipino. He's a full-time student, all that good stuff, right? And I used to study this guy before I even went to Atos. So when I got there, of course, every time I saw him, I would grab him and ask him a million questions. I learned more from asking him questions, in my honest opinion, versus me actually being in class paying attention. And the reason why I say that's not because the only reason why I say that is because I was asking questions that pertained mainly to my game.
Specific to you.
And so, exactly. So I would get my butt kicked by these guys, but I would always, and I mean always, pull them to the side and ask questions. And I learned a lot just from those situations. And I would be in a position where I would get in a similar situation with that guy and they wouldn't be able to do the same thing they did to me beforehand because I asked them questions. So people think that the best teacher is competition. It's not. It's actually sparring and getting beat up and asking questions afterwards. And the reason why it's not competition is because sparring and competition are the same thing, but with competition comes pressure. You have crowd involvement. You have all these different things that don't have anything to do with the sport you're playing. So when it's sparring, it's just the sport. So you're going to learn the most in those situations, and of course with drilling and things like that. But objectively speaking, if you're in a situation where you get beat up, or even if you don't get beat up, it's a close round, knit round. Asking questions directly after is going to help you a lot. So what's your guys' thoughts on that?
Education, education is key. Education, asking questions. You don't ask questions in class with your teacher, you're not going to get the answer. The questions you have to ask too, because people they have inconsistent questions. People ask questions on the fly, but then don't elaborate later. So it's like, okay, I'm going to ask you right after class in chemistry, please explain to me the equation of relativity. And it's like, okay, that's going to be maybe a 5-month ordeal, but I'm going to try to put that into like this little, you ask me after the roll in a 1, 2, 3 minute question. I give it to you, you take it, but then, okay, you didn't say, hey, I have a notebook. Let me notate, say that again. I'm going to record your voice. Let me record you say that. Can I film the roll? Can I meet up with you later and kind of go over this again, because I know this is kind of a rush situation. Again, there's always more of a deeper insight than just a broad generalization of what the situation may be. So I truly do believe that asking questions is great, but asking questions and then elaborating on it later is important. That's what note-taking is and homework is. In school, if you want to excel, it is the extra work that you do to elaborate on the subject that is being taught. The teacher is moving at a pace to get a year's worth of curriculum into a group of individuals who will probably be there for a year. In jiu-jitsu, we don't know how long the individuals are going to be there, but they're going to be over there a long period of time. And they're learning and they're educating themselves and they're learning. They have to be taught. But if you're not there to ask the questions and then you're not asking questions after, it's hard to come back and remember. If you ask a question and then you leave and then you do a whole array of things in your life, you come back, and what if you didn't come back tomorrow? So that's another thing. If I ask a question, I'm coming back tomorrow. If I notate it, I'm coming back tomorrow. Especially if my body's still good, I'm still fresh in my head. I want to come back tomorrow. I want to seek out that person, ask them again, or seek out the person that I asked the question for, and then go try to see if it works. Each day I give myself the habitual habit of what fight sports use: repetition. And why we use repetition is because repetition is the key to all learning. If you have a mental disability, if you have a motor skills disability, if you have a learning disability, the way you can overcome all of these distractors and factors is through constant repetition. This is what judo was teaching. This is what wrestling teaches. This is boxing teaches. This is what all of these arts teach. This is what working teaches. How long before in your job, cars, driving the car, brushing your teeth. If you don't brush your teeth young and don't brush your teeth, you're probably not going to be brushing your teeth older. If you're not repeating things, like, so again, you're already teaching your kids bad habits. If you're not waking them up, having them brush their teeth, doing it for them, giving them that habit, those good habits, you're just waking up like whatever, just throw your clothes on, just go with it. You know, you're giving bad habits and you don't realize you're giving bad habits, because jiu-jitsu can make you take good habits and create bad habits. I'm drilling the technique wrong because I did not ask a question. And I go through my mind thinking I'm doing it right because I roll with people who are less knowledgeable than me. So they think I'm doing it right too. So the blind leading the blind. So I'm doing these things because I didn't ask a question. I just interpret, right? Language is a good way to interpret and not interpret the full sentence and just think you know what they're saying and you just go with it. Language, jiu-jitsu and language is very similar because you can learn how to say hello, but you don't know the rest of the sentence. So you say hello to me, it sounds very good. So I come back to you with everything. You like, ooh, sorry, I don't know anymore. And then you didn't say, hey, how do you say this? Or how do you do this? You kind of just act like you know. And you just say, oh, and then you walk off. And then you go. And you don't elaborate on your education. You don't elaborate on your study. You don't elaborate on your learning. So you're not going to learn. These are the pitfalls of education. These are the pitfalls of why we go to school and we don't exceed in school, why we don't make it past college. It's all about it's educating yourself. The educated student is the one who asks questions, seeks more work, seeks more knowledge. He's not afraid of knowledge. He's not distracted. So while your friends are partying and doing everything, you in them books, you know, and then you achieve things in life. And the ones that did, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Again, exceptions to the rule. But usually the ones who create good habits, they're always the ones that are at the top of the food chain. You know, millionaires, they're people with good habits, because there's a lot more poor millionaires. People don't know that, but there are a lot more poor, made something of themselves millionaires than there were born millionaires. People think that people inherit big money. Right. Yes, a small percentage of people inherit money, but the majority of people who make their money are people who develop great habits. And they came up from poverty, and poverty teaches you something that other things don't teach you. That if you don't get your act together and create good habits, you're probably going to be poor for the rest of your life. Because poverty is a group, an existence of habits. You're less educated, more likely you're going to be poor. Proven, percentage-wise. They've done studies. If you're not educated, most likely you're going to be poor. And you know, because even poor, you can educate yourself. You don't need school. I don't need to go to school to educate myself. We do this today. It's called homeschool. Kids that are homeschooled are now being tested and doing better than the kids that go to public school, because everybody mixes in the public school. So you're mixing kids with bad habits with good habits. Yeah. And if the bad habits outweigh the good habits, go to a bad neighborhood school. And if all the bad habits outweigh the good habits and you're that one good habit kid, what you think's going to happen? They're going to overwhelm you and make you start doing bad habits so you can fit in. Yep. So then your life becomes how many good kids made bad choices because of who they were around. Exactly. And the trajectory of their life is destroyed after that. And they may never get a chance to come back. You know, I always say that. So if you had a chance where your parents were giving you good habits and things like that, don't fall victim. Don't fall victim to the bad habit lifestyle, because that's where I grew up under, the bad habit lifestyle. But I was also around people trying to tell me to make great choices and good habits. But I was around my outside environment. My outside sources were so overwhelmingly negative and laced with bad habits that's the environment that I thought was where I think bad is good and good is bad. And this is today's society. We're starting. So again, that falls into jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is life. And so these are the things. We start drilling bad habits. Because, you know, I didn't pay attention. I didn't come to class. That sticks with you when you drill. Yeah. And then you drill, again, with the person that's less knowledgeable than you. So he don't know if you're doing it wrong. So you want to drill with people that are more knowledgeable. Because if I'm a student, I'm going to the kid that's getting, I just said this, I'm going to go to the kid that's getting Fs, right? Yeah. But what if he doesn't tell me he's getting Fs? I don't know. Because I'm knowledgeable of anything myself. I'm not even showing up. So I go to you and say, hey, man, let me copy your work. I ain't come to class today. And you copy it, and you turn it in, and it'd be like, that was a D. Like, that was a D, man.
How we get D?
He was like, I didn't know what I was doing.
You don't even know who to copy from.
He was like, I didn't know what I was doing. You didn't say nothing. Why did I say nothing? You ain't here, so why would I tell you that I'm doing bad? You know what I'm saying? Who wants to tell somebody they're doing bad? Right. Who wants to tell somebody they're doing bad in jiu-jitsu? When you tell them they did that armbar wrong, what's the first thing they do? They look at you with the look of failure. I did it wrong. Now I'm scared. Now I'm overwhelmed. I'm scared. I don't even want to try it no more because now coach is watching me and I'm going to do it wrong. And I'm already anticipating. That's what people say to me all the time. Like, I know I was going. You was going to get out of it anyway, so I didn't even try.
Yeah, like what?
Exactly.
Didn't even try.
I hate. Oh man.
You didn't even try. So how can you ever succeed if you don't even try? Right? Because you're afraid of failing.
You're guaranteed.
And you're
to
back
fail.
to the same thing. Your failing came based on your habits. You're not showing up to class. Now, if you're here every day at class, it will show, just like the student. But if you're in class and you're daydreaming,
Exactly.
then there's people that went to school and daydreamed all day. I'm not paying attention. I'm not focused. I'm not looking. I'm in here just because I want to pump iron, like I go to the gym, pump biceps, and then go in and get a shake and say, I'm getting ripped. But you just did biceps. You didn't do everything else. Now, if you're doing biceps and the whole full chain of your body, yesterday was chest, today's biceps, tomorrow's legs. I'm disciplined. I'm eating right. You're going to see results. Same thing on the mat. You're going to see results when you put in good habits. James did not get good until James put in good habits in his training. Same thing. Blind leading the blind. Thought I knew what I was doing. Beat up on a few guys. Think that worked. Then go fight somebody that's more knowledgeable than me. Same level, same age, same whatever. But then they knowledgeable. They studied more. They put more time in. So again, you gotta get good habits. Drilling is good habits. Knowing how to drill, what techniques. Because he was saying too, drilling. And then you're drilling, like, what if you're drilling with the partner doesn't even know what you want them to do? So how are you going to drill with somebody that ain't even learning? How you going to learn with somebody that ain't even learning? How you going to make a study group with the guys that ain't learning? All of us, we don't know nothing. So who's going to be the leader to learn something and come back and teach us? And that's where we still be relying upon some come back with the knowledge and show me. Like, why don't we go together and learn together?
Mm-hmm.
I do this all the time. School comes into school. It does. School comes into the schools. That's why people go to Harvard. That's why people go to small schools, community colleges. So like jiu-jitsu has the same thing. You're going to go to the school where everybody's achieving, excelling. And I'm going there. Like, my school ain't achieving. My school, but for whatever reason, not no one's fault. But just, again, I'm going to go where I know they're achieving. And then I'm going to get that person that's knowledgeable. And then that person is going to also teach me. And then maybe I learn from somebody that's more knowledgeable than him. So we all learning this knowledge, because knowledge is what's powerful. If I made all of you guys knowledgeable and rich, then I got 4 rich people that can help me, and we can all get richer. But if it's like I'm the only one rich and y'all all poor, how y'all gonna get rich? Unless it's just basically me giving you money. Give you. I made you rich, but then how do you get rich? Because I just gave you. I didn't give you no tips, no pointers, no ways to work it. How you gonna get it? And then you're just like, oh, feed me. So that could be the same thing in the role. Like, you're kind of like, you're easing on them all day. You're letting submissions go. You're not trying to tap them. You're not giving them no reality. You're giving them a false sense of reality. But maybe sometimes, and then I go too hard on you. So I'm so against balance. I go too hard on you. I scare you because I just wanted to rip you up to make you realize, like, yo, this is what life would be like for you if you go outside and try to do this wrong. Like, yo, man, take it easy. You a little bit extreme. So again, you have to find balance, and then your student has to put more effort. I think that's going to be the case that where those things happen, because drilling can be drilling. But I know drilling can be boring, just like studying can be boring, right? So you be like, man, I don't feel like reading this book for no 2 hours. Let me go do this. I'll come back. But then they got other ways that things are easier. You find better people that make it more interesting, so.
Self-awareness, too, basically. I feel like all the subjects you're touching on is self-awareness and being honest with yourself, too.
I think in jiu-jitsu, we use this word all the time, right? What do when you call the gym, right? Or when people call the gym, what is the first thing they say they want when they come to jiu-jitsu? What's the first thing someone says to you?
Usually discipline.
And what else?
Like how to get tough. Fight
self-defense.
There you go. I got a stack full of papers of what you looking for. First thing comes in there, I want discipline and self-defense. And then there's that one word in there. And on the walls, what is always saying? It has a self in front of everything. Self-discipline. So that means discipline without the push of a parent, instructor, guide, self. You're going to have to teach yourself. Self-motivation. You're going to have to motivate yourself. All of these things. Self-defense. You're going to have to defend yourself. If you're not defending yourself, someone's going to take yourself. So again, you have to use the self word in there and take self. Sometimes it's more like, coach, what you going to give me? Like, I can just put the chip in the back of your head like the Matrix and now you know jiu-jitsu like like Keanu Reeves. No, my friend. It takes study, practice, time, effort. It takes self-discipline, involvement. It's going to always be self. I put self in front of everything I do with jiu-jitsu so that you know it's self-reflection, the hardest reflection of all. To look in the mirror and see yourself for who you truly are. The inside that you don't tell people. Because the real self, no one sees that self but you. And people don't even like to see that self. They turn that self off, you know. And that's the true person you are. Inside, what you tell yourself, what you say to yourself. The face you put out to the public is the fakest face you can put out. The self face is the realest face, but only one who faces that is you. That's it. And you're in there lying to yourself. You know, you'll do this all day in life. You know, so again, that jiu-jitsu is life, man. That's what I've learned in jiu-jitsu. That's why I think I'm stuck with it, because it showed me all the things in my life that was wrong, that other people may have tried, other situations may have tried. You know, things that I've been through that I tried. But yeah, jiu-jitsu was the thing that made me realize who was the most detrimental to myself was myself.
Yeah, like Hoist Gracie said, right? The black belt covers 2 inches of your ass. You got to cover the rest. So it's all about you, yourself. Your belt ain't doing nothing for you. You know, it's all about you.
Yeah. A little effort goes a long way. You know, people think I got to put in 100% effort on the first day. That's a big thing, again, because that's what our society makes us think. Society makes us think that everything is 100% effort on the first day. And you cannot put 100% effort. The only thing you can put in 100% is your will and drive to try.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But to perform 100% on the first day, that's ridiculous. You're not going to perform. You just need to take small steps every day and just take that with it. Sometimes that's why we get discouraged, because we have this big, like, again, you got to lose weight. And if you're already saying that you're going to lose 20 pounds by tomorrow, you're done. You got to stop smoking cigarettes. You about to put down 10 packs in one day, you done. Why don't you just diminish each day? You know, I smoked cigarettes before I did jiu-jitsu. People don't know that. I used to smoke cigarettes. Jiu-jitsu each day made me put down them cigarettes, one day at a time. Like, you know, like, okay, it went from the weekends to one time to only never, because I needed to do something. If I want to continue to win in this, I need to take care of this. How am I going to be doing this and try to win here? So all that stuff they say when they get there, you ain't even going to get there. You're not even going to get to drill. You're not going to be in class. You're not going to be doing nothing. Again, that's a specific to somebody who's already in it. Like, this is what you need to do when you're already in it. That's the game plan. But what about if I'm not in it? I'm the regular Joe. I got these problems in my life. And I don't even tell the coach. How does he even know?
He's got to,
you know? It would only be me talking about yourself and learning how to deal with yourself and work yourself. Because, you know, that's the thing. A lot of guys in the gym still may not take a lot of good care of themselves. That's just the way it is. You know, you can do jiu-jitsu and still not take care of yourself. You could be a professor and not take care of yourself. How many physical trainers aren't in the shape of the people that they're working with?
Yeah.
You know, so you have that tendency to fall off even when you're in the same field. So again, it's a true self-discipline, even when you're old and 60. That's the one thing I want to try to maintain. Self-discipline till I'm dead in the grave. You know, people at the top they disciplined. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, very disciplined individual. Always, you know, at this age, 75, maybe older. Sylvester Stallone. Yeah. Like, these guys I follow. Man, you know, I follow a lot of the psychologists. You know, people like Jordan Peterson. I follow these guys because they're about methodical thinking, discipline, good habits, things that go a long way, small steps over time lead to large improvements. So again, when you take your jiu-jitsu and not overwhelm yourself with I have to prove something to my coach, or I have to be like him, or I have to try to do what they doing. I just need to do my things one at a time. And then if I'm looking for something like I want to overachieve, then yeah, I'm going to have to take a harder route.
Right.
Overachieving is a harder route. That's a choice that you will get in self-reflection if you can make that. And I like those guys that kind of make those life changes for themselves, because that's what I did. I made a life change. Again, like I said, some of the guys that do jiu-jitsu, they were born into this. I wasn't. Right. I had to make a life change, a total life change. So my experiences are more on that guy that had to come in and make something of himself. So I had to make something of myself before the gym could even make anything of me. Mm-hmm. And so I believe that's more of a factor, even at the highest levels, because, you know, sometimes even at the high levels, you can fall off and let your losses destroy you, discourage you, and then you lose focus and discipline. And then you start doing the things that you know that you didn't do, but now you're doing them because, you know, it's overwhelming.
I like that. I want to finish up with the last one.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
When it comes to ineffectively drilling, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you think guys can, without someone telling them that they're ineffectively drilling, how do you think somebody can figure that out? I want to ask you this question.
It has to be through study, just for the simple fact of you got to be aware, like the self-awareness that we were discussing. You got to be aware of the situations that's going on.
Okay.
And doing that in a class setting where, like, you're not daydreaming, you're not paying attention, right? When you're going over the lesson, you need to be paying attention because you're going to always see what it is that's required of you, right? And so it's going to come down from just basically awareness and just paying attention to what's going on. You know what I mean?
This takes extra study. Like you said, asking the questions. You got to do the work. Because, like, again, that statement and that's a subjective statement because who are we talking about, though? Again, we got to not generalize too much with jiu-jitsu. We can have a habit to generalize so much. You say, okay, but what if that guy, what you taught was super complicated? I didn't learn it right there. I just, I could be paying attention, but my interpretation is totally different. We interpret as human beings, we interpret so much so differently. Even at the highest level, you could be looking at a high level and you're a high level and then you interpreted that totally wrong than what he taught until you asked him the question of how he got to that conclusion. So we got to go study a little bit further outside of the point of asking the question to the knowledgeable and then taking that knowledge and having him elaborate a little bit more in a setting where I have time to soak it all in. I'm not going to soak that in a group class if I missed it. Just like you did not soak that. What subjects you get the worst in school?
Science.
Same facts, science.
English.
Okay. What do you believe was your factor of not excelling in science?
It's not paying attention.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay attention.
Not paying attention. Boring.
Yeah.
Right. So if you but basic science you've picked up, correct, by being in class, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now if you went to the teacher or the person who has the same knowledge or less than you, do you think you're going to get improvement on what you have unless you ask the teacher or a tutor, right? Go in and get that extra credit because, again, what the teacher may be doing may bore you out. The subject may bore you out. It's like in jiu-jitsu, right? I've seen the mount armbar a million times. How many times am I going to learn the mount armbar? But maybe the mount armbar is for the kid that did it or the adult or the person didn't understand it at that moment or they weren't here. So I'm showing it in the group setting. Just like in school, how many times you going to learn science? But it gets so monotonous that science starts to become like Charlie Brown, womp, 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 and you start zoning things out. Like you might zone your mama out telling you to clean your room all the time. You still ain't cleaning it. You know she been saying it for 10 years, but you ain't cleaned it, right? Because, again, it's just that it's how we interpret what is being said, because when your mother says it with the beating, that interpretation is very easy to remember compared to like, okay, clean your room. I cleaned it up for you, and now you come back, it's clean. But I told you to clean it up, but you didn't do it because you didn't do it the way it was supposed to be clean. Or your interpretation is she ain't really paying attention. I'm going to sweep the clothes right under the bed. And when they come in, she look, all right, that's all she wanted to see. Because, again, that's how we learn things. That's how we learn at school. It's those habits. And then we go back into like what he was saying. If you're not asking your teacher and you're not getting that knowledge, and when you're not clear because maybe you're scared to let people see you're not clear, or you said English was the subject. What was the reason and subject of English that you didn't get?
There was a lot in English that's left up to interpretation, right? So the way that I interpret something may be different than
back
the
to
other
that
person.
word interpretation. So we're in
a
a class.
I need to study in order to be
But
versed.
how can you study something that you can't interpret?
That's the point. You study so you can interpret it.
But again, have you ever studied economics?
Yes.
Right? Economics is a language that most people can't understand, even when they know it. So how can you interpret something that you don't understand?
By studying it.
But are you studying alone? Are you studying with someone less knowledge, same knowledge, or above knowledge?
Now you
Above
can
knowledge if you have a
Above
teacher.
knowledge.
But you can.
What if the
find-
teacher's occupied? Because just like the teacher in the class is occupied with their life. You don't go find the teacher at home and say, teacher, call up the teacher and say, teacher, after school, can you come help me? So what do we usually try to find in those places? Tutors.
Yeah, I mean,
Tutors, one-on-ones.
in
Back to
society.
again, one-on-one. It's the one-on-one with the person that is the valedictorian of the classroom.
Right.
I'm going to study with the valedictorian. Because if I want valedictorian, because they're going to be able, they interpret, they're a valedictorian, they're straight A's, they're 100% or 99 or 98. So that means they're at the top percentile of the people who understand, right? There's a top of percentile of everything. My thing was math, right? And I think the reason why I didn't excel in math is because I didn't do math, right? Except if it was counting money, things like that. That was about the only math that I did in every day. And now growing up and going into life and the math that I need sometimes, oh man, I get upset with myself that I didn't ask more questions to the people who are knowledgeable. I'm in the house, like I said, I'm with a bunch of teachers, but sometimes the teachers in the house don't know that math that well neither. So again, you're at there's levels to these things. So interpretation, because again, you could be in the classroom with the teacher. He just talking like, man, this is arithmetic, this is calculus, advanced calculus.
Statistics.
I'm still on pre-algebra, basic math, but I don't want to see stupid. So I put you to the side. Can I do a private with you? Show me. Can I get that one student, the best student in the class? You got some free time? Let me offer you something for your services. To that way you be more dedicated to show me, and I'll be more dedicated to learn. So again, you got to value that, because sometimes if you just do it for fun, it's like, oh yeah, he just showed that to me, and you just the same thing. You kind of don't put value to it. So I think again, interpretation is based upon your learning by asking the questions to the right people, the right people.
And you can still, at this particular point in time in life, because there's so much of the internet and all of that stuff accessible, you still can, if you can't get to that person directly and catch that source, you can.
True. Still comes down to learning, though, because if that was the case, the internet would make everybody a straight A student.
Or a rich
The internet would be, the world would be full of millionaires.
But what does it go back
straight
to?
A students.
Self.
True, but I mean, again, interpretation is the key. You gotta remember, I could be studying, but I have to be smart at certain things to study alone. I'm a person who can study by myself and learn things on my own, but everybody doesn't learn like me.
Correct.
So again, that study, like studying what am I studying? You can get on YouTube and you started doing this, but the next thing you know, you looking at little babies in the cribs with different types of things, because you were supposed to study this, but then you got distracted.
You sure did.
So you lost focus.
Yeah.
So again, interpretation is key. Studying without, because we could say all these things, study whatever, but you got to be with somebody that's doing more studying than you and going to teach you how to study better.
And you need to be willing to accept
the criticism for learning, to take the fear that you might be failing, because if you went to college and you failed like I did, you knew that you were supposed to get some tutoring a long time ago, but you waited till you got put on academic probation before you wanted to start acting like you was going to do the right thing.
You waited till finals week.
Exactly. That was me. To be honest, that was me. I was in college and high school. I got by the skin of my teeth, because I was smart, but I did not apply myself. I did not ask questions. I did not elaborate. I did not take the tutoring sessions. I did not hang with the right people with good habits. And I relate education to jiu-jitsu. That's why the same way they work hand in hand. So when we're doing a lot of these things, that's how I teach. I teach with that as an educator, not a jiu-jitsu educator, but as an educator. Education and the keys of education. That majority, 90% things are learned through doing. That's it. 10% is listening. 20% is seeing. Those are the most lowest percentages. And 30% is hearing. All the lowest of the senses that you do majority of your life are the ones that you learn the worst with. You only do the best from doing. That's the way you learn the best. What is a job where you're an apprentice? You're doing instead of learning. You're learning while you're doing.
Learning on the job.
You're learning on the job. That's the apprenticeship. They give you just as much money as the person that's working close to it, because you're learning on the fly. You're able to learn while you're working, because doing helps you learn better, because you make a mistake when you're doing and you got to do it again right after, you just fix that mistake.
Correct.
You're doing it tomorrow, the same thing again. You're going to repeat it and you're going to do it again, and you're going to be a little bit more wiser. So, you don't show up to work 4 days in a row just because you didn't feel like it, because you weren't coming because of whatever reason. You ain't going to know the job, and you ain't going to have a job. Again, those things are applicable to what you do in life. So I believe I come at an educator standpoint.
I like that. Man, that was a heavy episode, bro. I feel like I learned a whole bunch. But I think we can continue this conversation on a second episode. But man, thank you guys so much for coming on and blessing the podcast. If you guys want to hand out your handles, well, I know you don't have a handle, but you want to give any shout outs?
Yeah, no handle, but shout out to Professor James, Professor Mitch for giving me the opportunity to teach here at Altos. I've learned a lot being here, and I'm looking forward to the future.
Glad to have you. For sure. We're always looking forward to the future. Just trying to get better with time, get better, make everyone else better. Again, you can find me on Instagram. JVNIVAL, BJJ. You can find me at the gym. If you come here, you'll see me here. Or at a gym near you. Who knows? Or at a stage near you.
Could be in a competition.
This weekend on Sunday, you can find them there too. At Fuji.
Find me a lot of places. I would like to transition, though. I am trying to transition from this situation of taking jiu-jitsu into the physical and really trying to promote jiu-jitsu in the mental and the motivational. So just using the tools to help us, not the fight, because we can get caught in the physical so much. The physical is great. That physical contact is a very addicting contact. You know, so you may not be learning, but man, if you could just come in here and just roll up on the dude and just roll him up, and that's a great feeling sometimes, you know. Again, independent on how you learn or what you are executing, if it's good, if it's bad, it's a very addicting thing to get in here and wrestle. Remember when you was a kid and you got to wrestle and roughhouse with kids and you wanted to do it over and over, flip on mattresses and play WWE and jump off the top and Jimmy Fly snooker you or whatever it was.
All day long.
You know, that enticed you. So that has that childhood left in us that kind of keeps us going. But then when it gets to the point where you got to learn, people kind of start to detach. Like, oh, man, this is a little difficult. Oh, you know, this is a little hard. I can't do that. So, again, you know, it's just that point of trying to relate. Sometimes some mental aspects that – because I know a lot of jiu-jitsu people, they have mental coaches. A lot of people have mental coaches because they realize that. They thought it was all physical, but it was majority mental. Yep. And the physical was the byproduct of your mental. I came in physical. They changed me to mental, you know. So yeah, definitely want to get into motivational speaking.
Yeah. Like I said, if you try to get at me, I'm here at the gym as well. Enjoy it. Don, we love having you here for sure. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tufele, you know what I'm saying? Couldn't do none of this stuff without you guys. I'm simple. I'm easy. DGLILNINGAS, Little Ninjas. So, you know. Come check us out.
What does DG stand for?
Them gyms, baby. Them gyms. So, you know, it's the Diamond Art Jiu-Jitsu Academy, and like the children I had for my classes, I would call them the like little gyms, you know, small kids and whatnot. So, and then also to them gyms, you're always thinking in your mind when you learn some jewels, you get them dropped in, so you get them gyms.
Okay.
Sure. Well, thank you guys again for coming on.
Always.
Hopefully
awesome
we can
podcast.
have you again.
Thank you for having us for sure.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
And my brother.
Yeah, you already know.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you again, and we out. Peace.
Adios.